The battle for the arrow. A great fight. There's contrasting ideals, allegories out the wazoo. Who is the one deserving of the arrow? It's amazing. But what if Giorno wasn't the one that was deserving of the arrow? What if in an alternate world where the arrow just didn't work the way it expected to, and it instead gravitated towards Diavolo, and he was the one to get it instead? Also, for those that have been subscribed for a long time, you might have seen this premise a while back when I was first getting into making JoJo content on this whole site. You understand more about anything the more time you invest something into it, and I think my understanding of functions and narrative are massively different from then and now. The video itself back then is, I'd say, highly inaccurate as to what would happen, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to do right at this time. So, let's get into this, starting with the scenario and setting and all of that. So the scenario itself can be too profound, I would think. The story of Golden Wind is structured to where the only thing that would truly make sense is Giorno being the one to get the arrow, even with the parallel journeys in mind. But let's say that this is a scene where it supports the whole Doppio always being there for Diavolo dynamic. Let's say that Mista only shot to keep Bruno down because he worried too much about his body. Or he just missed because he's shaky with the idea of shooting Bruno. Now, this would be good because since it benefits Doppio, the whole thought of it would be like, oh man, this only happened because Mista's resolve was shaken back then. And it would make sense as to why his resolve be shaken in that specific instance, because it's like, on one hand, I do really trust Bruno, so I should be listening to him and just go ahead and shoot the body and just not care about it because I'm following with Bruno's orders. But it's like, on the other hand, I'm shooting Bruno, so it's like, what if he doesn't come back to his body? What if I ruin the chance for that now? Like, there's a lot for Mista to think about, and it'll mess with him for a little bit. So now that's something on the plate. Now everything that happens in the story happens the way that it does, and we get all the way down to Giorno finally having the arrow in his hands. While he's holding the arrow up and looking at Diavolo, someone is rushing towards Giorno with their last seconds left in a body. Mista and Trish see it, and to them, it's Bruno, and it should make sense because everyone is going back to their body, but we know who it actually is. It's Doppio about to fade out of his body, but before doing so, he tackles Giorno like a football player, and the arrow goes flying out of his hands. Everyone is losing it, and Giorno is trying to explain that that's not Bruno as fast as he can, as everyone can see what's going on. The arrow is in Diavolo's hands now, and before Doppio dies, he asks Diavolo in his dying breath if he did a good job. Diavolo starts laughing in a hysterical tone, screaming, "Yes, yes, Doppio, you have. My heart was shrouded with despair, but you, fate has chosen you to help me achieve my everlasting climax." Giorno and Trish are yelling up and dashing up with their stands. Mista is in the back shooting, but it doesn't matter. Diavolo activates the time erasing ability that he has and uses that same line of dialogue as before. And then he jams the arrow right into the chest of King Crimson. Time goes back to normal, and everyone has missed their attacks. And Diavolo has disappeared from where he once was. Everyone is looking around. The feeling is like the calm before the storm. And then you hear the time erasing effect happen. The screen does that little glitch effect, and then there he is. Diavolo with KCR floating in the air above everyone, like how Giorno and GER were. Diavolo most likely says something to thank either Doppio or the combination of Fate and Doppio, and it would probably sound like how he's talking to him during the Metallica fight.
Doppio yo. Oh, Doppio. Watashi no kawaii Doppio.
You made it possible for me to reach my everlasting climax. Trish tells the others about how the arrow has accepted Diavolo, and after it, both Trish and Giorno charge in with Mista still on the ground shooting, and now we get KCR's new abilities. So what's about to happen here? Now, the first thing is Absolute Epitaph. King Crimson's Epitaph ability lets him see up to 10 seconds into the future. Since the original poetry of the ability was that he was able to look into the future so he can control it since he can't control the present, I wanted to have something that would end up giving Diavolo exactly what he wanted, but make it into an ironic poetry type of thing while also connecting it into some things that already exist in JoJo. Absolute Epitaph has now merged with the entire body of King Crimson Requiem. As to what it does, it now views time in the same way that you look at a video in a video editor. And with it being absolute, how far he can see all depends on how far he wants to see. So if he wanted to see the next 20 seconds, he could. He could also see the next 20 days, the 20 months, 20 years, the end of time, the beginning of the next time, etc. Though while this ability seems great in a fighting aspect, it's a terrible ability to bear. Or at least that's how I feel if I had it. Absolute Epitaph itself does not have to be activated for it to work. It's a passive ability to KCR now. And only when Diavolo wants to see it is when he would see it, like how he does normally before. Basically, it works like this. KCR sees time as like a video in a video editor, right? This is always active. So basically, it's like you tabbed out of your video editor, but when Diavolo specifically wants to see something, instead of just leaving it up to KCR, he can reopen the program to see what's up. KCR will act for him regardless. Diavolo can just choose to see what's going on if he wants to. Now that we established Absolute Epitaph, there's what he can do with it, and there's the other two abilities he has left. Since KCR views time the way that it does now, fighting people is a lot different. Instead of activating time erase and destroying people in the ability by using KC's immense strength, KCR now has the ability to erase his problems out of existence. You can use Hakai as a reference as to how he can erase people, but how it works is a bit different. So I'm going to use our example of the story I had going. KCR sees time like a video editor, and people are layers in a sense. Inside of AE, the Absolute Epitaph, with the swipe of a hand, he erases Giorno out of existence. Or well, he doesn't really need any motion. If it's something he truly wants to happen, KCR will do it. It sounds crazy as an ability, but with how I'm having the story go, I promise we won't really be seeing any of it, unfortunately. The next ability is Identity Erasure. It works like how Rohan had Heaven's Door work against Koichi every time that he tried to tell Josuke and Okuyasu about the danger that he's in. As soon as he opens the door, the idea of telling them just disappeared as soon as he left. It's like that. Except here, it's more so that as soon as you pursue Diavolo or the idea of finding him out, it disappears out of your head. Along with that, if he was to tell you about who he is, you would forget it anyways, which sounds like an ability that Kira would love too. As an example, say that instead of fighting everyone at the final fight, he just disappears and everyone forgets that they were pursuing. And let's say that Diavolo goes to a restaurant, eat, and they come to give him the bill. He's like, I won't be paying this because Diavolo doesn't pay for anything. And then he walks away because if they try to pursue him to pay the bill, that thought disappears. And if they were thinking about who that man is that didn't pay, that thought also disappears. He has the ability to basically be invisible in plain sight. Like, people at the restaurant will be able to see him sit there and order food and all that, but as soon as he's done with everything, they've forgotten everything about him. It's like he wasn't even there. Now, as to why I gave him these abilities, it's a fusion of upgrading the original abilities, ironic poetry, and matching the desire and motivation of Diavolo. Instead of giving examples here, I'll just be talking about what I'm doing with the story of it all. Now, let's go back to the activation of King Crimson Requiem. Diavolo and KCR are in the middle of Giorno, Trish, and Mista. Diavolo activates his time erasing ability, thinking that it works the same, so once he does that, he uses Epitaph and can see KCR taking out Giorno. Diavolo is extremely happy with the outcome, but wants to know what's so different about KCR that makes it the way that it is. KCR asks Diavolo if he wants to see how far its abilities can be pushed. Diavolo believes that fate is already in place, so he can take care of everything now, but the idea that there can be more done interests him, so he lets KCR show off the extent of its new abilities. So then KCR, with the swipe of its cape, takes Diavolo to a realm that visually looks similar to the effect that Time Erase has, but it's more so a bit more spacious, more likely looks a bit darker too. Maybe looks similar to the whole realm of what GR does. He sees the past week in a timeline like how we see videos in a video editor, like I keep on mentioning. And that's a cool trick to Diavolo. But then KCR grabs the end of it all, which would be where they are now, and he throws it all the way to its right. Now time flies around them like what the truth did to Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, just all flying around. Diavolo sees the next decades, universes after, etc., etc. He's legit stamina broken at this point, and KCR stops the whole just time fluctuating thing going on. Diavolo sits back on the floor trying to register what had just happened. In this time, no time has passed yet. In the normal world, it's still like basically paused at that point. Right now, Diavolo and KCR sit outside of time while this is all going on. Diavolo tries to figure out what had just happened by asking questions, and KCR explained that it could explain all that happened, but they still have a situation at hand. To Diavolo, a good amount of time had just passed mentally, and he's taken a lot of information in. He sees the original situation with Giorno, Trish, and Mista, but with seeing all that time is, he doesn't see reason into going back into that. Instead, he wants more time to reflect and ask more questions, but he still doesn't want to deal with those that want to pursue him for his original position. So the identity erasure ability comes into play. KCR assures Diavolo no one will be able to reach him, and they disappear. There's a big flash, time has gone back a bit, Giorno has the arrow in hand, Mista and Trish are back to where they were, and it looks like nothing has happened. Giorno pierces himself with the arrow, Gold Experience Requiem happens, but there's no Diavolo here. Or Giorno can just recognize the situation and not use the arrow. I'm down with giving a scenario for either road. The Giorno with GR looks to his newsstand and asks about Diavolo, and GR tells Giorno that he doesn't need to worry about him anymore because he won't be a threat to anyone anytime soon, or at all. He doesn't fully grasp what had just happened, but understands that what GR is saying is completely true. The Giorno without GR taking the arrow and just going on to become the boss doesn't really sound like something that would happen. I feel like everyone would still be on edge until there's confirmation that Diavolo is no longer a problem. So he does use the arrow anyways, which goes back to our main plan of the story. Now, Giorno goes on to become the boss and all of that, but what happened to Diavolo after that fight? Well, with the knowledge he has of time itself and his interest to understand more, him and KCR spend their days roaming the earth or standing outside of time while Diavolo tries to learn more and understand all that is. The life he lived before and the idea of just continuing on what he was doing originally seems so insignificant that he doesn't even want to pursue it at all, nor does he plan to do it. And as a cool little callback to when Diavolo and Doppio were one, Diavolo takes boats as a means of transportation when he wants to sit down and reflect, calling back to when he said that he wanted to live his life as a sailor to his, in quotes, dad. Now, Diavolo had become everything that he wanted to be and got all that he wanted. It just didn't come out the way that it was originally planned. He wanted to stand at the top alone, and now with his understanding of the universe and time itself, he does stand alone. Or well, not entirely alone because there is KCR. He's no longer worried of his past or think it's something of his that needs to be destroyed because he's gone so far from that mentality. The old Diavolo was cursed to live by dying infinitely, that being his hell. But this Diavolo's hell is having everything he's ever wanted and knowing it all. And that's the end of the scenario. Also, Diavolo being able to see all that is a wish of someone that we know. If, just like hint, hint, unless you're not caught up. Shout out to Part 6 people that understand what I'm getting at. Now, this is just my take on KCR would work and all that, and what would happen after. People can have their take on it and write up their own scenario as to what would happen after. If you do drop your own take on it, I'd love to see. You can send it to my Twitter Also, if you want to draw up this video as a comic or something, you can send that to my Twitter. Also, I love seeing that in general. I really do wish I could have drawn out everything that I had conceptualized, but I don't really draw like that. But I want to give a huge thank you to Kuma and Monkey that have made this art for me for this video. It's very, very, very helpful, and I very much thank both of them. You can follow both of them in the description. They're huge helps for this because while I couldn't conceptualize everything that I had and as an idea, I got a good amount of stuff. Like, this is a fair amount of stuff, and I really do love everything. It's like having KCR. It's amazing. Also, this is the design itself is a shout out to the original idea of KCR, how Araki had drawn it. So I really do love the both of these two and how they went about making this. So yeah. Thank you all for watching. I have not done a what if type of video in a while and would love to make more because I like the idea of trying to elaborate on a possibility. I do think I'm in a better position to do so now versus my past videos where I've done what ifs that I was originally shaky on. Like, and I'm still I'm shaky on those videos right now. Or well, there's a lot of videos I did back then that I would love to redo now, but I don't think that people would be too up for that, and it would be better for me to just keep on moving forward and then try to always fix the past. I gotta be more Giorno than I am Diavolo. Though I might fix up a thing or two when I do feel like it. I am gonna be getting back to streaming on Twitch. I'm gonna be playing Heritage for the future. I might be playing it the day that I'm uploading this right now, but in case I'm not, you can just follow Twitch anyways. You can follow my Twitter too because I'll post like on both of those things. I'll be like, yo, I'm streaming, or I'll just like meme out or something like that, you know. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. It's been a huge help, been a huge ride, and I'll be making more content as soon as possible. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.